a homebody. It's just who I am. My friends have come to respect it about me, but in my early 20s, it made life a little bit difficult. I had a really hard time meeting guys. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in a very strict household, and I'm not just talking about curfew or dating rules. My mother was actually picking out my clothes, which mainly consisted of khakis and polo shirts. Very sensible clothing for a teenage girl. So you can imagine when I moved to New York City to go to the Juilliard school, I was a bit closed off from the world of dating because in the early 2000s, before there were dating apps, people met in bars. And when you don't drink, you don't really go to bars that often. So I was sort of stuck in a world of smiling at guys on the L train and not really meeting anybody. Then one day my friend said to me, "We're gonna set you up with a guy." And I thought, this is perfect. I don't have to meet the guy's gonna come to me. This is the answer to all of my problems. So I put on my finest American Apparel dress, my most sensible heels, and I chugged an entire case of Red Bull. Because fuck it, I was gonna stay up all night for once. I arrive at my destination, The Box, New York City's hottest nightclub, which features very sensual burlesque acts that I am shocked by. The terrible thing about walking into a club fully sober is you actually see it for what it is. The tears in the banquette and the smell of old beer and the haze of pre-Bloomberg era cigarette smoke. But I decide I'm gonna push through because tonight's the night I meet the love of my life. And there he is. He's nerdy. He's got interesting tattoos. He's taller than me, everything I could ever hope for. So I try and flirt, which for me usually was like, I like public radio. How about you? Have you ever read The Rings of Saturn by W.G. Sebald? I used to hang out with my mother on Friday nights, and I didn't kiss a boy until I was 15. Sadly, none of this seemed to be working. He wasn't responding to me. He was barely even looking at me, and he was doing that god-awful thing at parties where someone scans over your shoulder for anyone better to talk to. So eventually, my friends decide to go to a second location, which horror films have taught me is always a bad idea. But this is the night I've decided to be spontaneous. I go to the bar. It's actually working better because it's smaller, it's more intimate, it's quieter. I decide to really crank things up a notch and use some moves I learned on the WB. I touched his forearm. And guess what? He's making eye contact now. Yep, he's actually responding when I'm talking to him. It's like maybe he's falling in love with me. I'm gonna have a boyfriend. I'm gonna be in love. And then our friend decides to start a fight with somebody else at the bar, and they start screaming at each other, shoving, and the whole bar's getting involved in this. And I'm like, no, this was my chance. And we get kicked out of the bar. And then there we all are on the sidewalk. I mean, at least if I was drunk, there'd be some, I don't know, what I imagined to be romance about the whole thing, but just being highly caffeinated at 5 a.m. is just not a great look. So we all part as friends. Years later, I actually saw this guy, my long lost love, and I for some reason told him this whole story, and it turns out our friend never even told him that they were trying to set us up. I drank a whole pack of Red Bull, stayed up for 24 hours, and got into the middle of a fight for like nothing. I mean, I did get to touch his forearm, but still.